Here we will learn how to make natural dyes and use them to color pasta. First, choose what color or colors you want to dye your pasta. I will show you how to make 5 different colored dyes. I will use beets to make red dye, carrots to make orange dye, turmeric to make yellow dye, spinach to make green dye, red cabbage to make purple dye, and you can get blue dye by mixing the purple dye from the red cabbage with baking soda. You can also get the orange and green dyes by mixing colors together. So you can mix the red and the yellow to get orange, and you can mix the blue and the yellow to get green. Once you decide which colors of dye you want to make, aside from the yellow, you will need to start chopping the vegetables into small pieces. You want a lot of surface area to be exposed so that more color leaks out and your dye is stronger. Place the vegetables into a stainless steel pot. Other types of pots may end up getting stained. And cover the chopped vegetables using the ratio of 2 cups of water to 1 cup of chopped vegetables. Continue this process with the other vegetables. Carrots are a little different. They should first be grated in order to expose as much surface area as possible. Then they should be placed into a stainless steel pot using the same ratio of 2 cups of water to 1 cup of vegetables. Once they are soft, they should be blended into a puree, strained, and the liquid from this should be added back into a pot and simmered again in order to boil off some of the water and condense the solution. This process is relatively complicated, so if you want an orange dye but you don't want to go through all of these steps, you can also make a yellow and red dye and combine those in order to get an orange dye. For the turmeric solution, start with 3 cups of water, add 1 tablespoon of turmeric and a handful of salt to a pot. Spinach leaves shrink a lot when they are boiled, so add more leaves than you think you need to a pot. The spinach leaves should also be pureed and boiled down similar to the carrots in order to make a stronger dye. However, green can also be made by combining the blue and yellow dyes. Cut the red cabbage into small pieces. Remember that the red cabbage can be used to make both blue and purple dye, so if you are interested in making both, make sure you add enough water to the pot so you can make a sufficient amount of each dye. Put the pots with your dye solution onto the stove. And bring each mixture to a boil. Covering each pot with a top will also make them boil faster. Once the mixtures are boiling, turn them down to a simmer. Once each mixture reaches your desired dye color, turn the burners off and remove the pot from the stove. Place a strainer over a stainless steel or glass bowl. These bowls won't get stained by the dye, and pour the mixture through so only the colored water is in the bowl below. Once the carrot mixture has been put through the blender and is in a puree, put it through a very thin strainer in order to get the orange dye. Again, remember you can make an orange dye by mixing the yellow and red dyes if you don't wish to go through this whole process. Put the orange dye back into a pot and simmer it again so you can boil off some of the water and condense the solution to get a stronger dye. I did not do this process with the spinach, so I ended up with a fairly weak green dye, but if you want a strong green dye, you should do the same process as you did with the carrots, where you puree the spinach, strain it, and then put it back on the stove to condense it. If you don't wish to do this, you can also make green dye by combining the yellow and blue dyes. Continue this process with the rest of the dyes. Again, the purple dye will be divided up and half of it will be used to make the blue dye. Put some of the purple dye into a separate bowl and add a very small amount of baking soda. This will turn the solution blue. You only need a very small amount of baking soda to change the color of the solution. Put all of your dyes into separate bowls and start making your pasta. When the pasta is done, add a small amount to each bowl. Let the pasta sit in the bowls for 45 minutes to an hour so that it can suck up the color from the dyes. When it is done, strain the pasta and serve.